The night air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to skin and made every breath feel heavier. Anna Carter tightened her grip on the thin envelope in her hands, her knuckles turning white as she reread the words printed in bold at the top of the letter. Notice of foreclosure. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stood in the dimly lit hallway of her small, worn-down apartment. The peeling paint on the walls, the flickering light bulb above, and the faint sound of her children sleeping in the next room. All of it felt suffocating. She had known this day would come, but seeing it in ink, in cold, unforgiving print, made it real in a way that crushed her spirit. She set the letter down on the small wooden table in the center of the room, her hands trembling. Rent was overdue. Bills stacked high on the counter. And now, this. 2 weeks. That was all the time she had left before she and her kids were forced onto the streets. Anna inhaled sharply and pressed her fingers against her temples. She needed to think, to act. But before she could gather herself, a loud, deliberate knock echoed through the apartment. The sound sent a sharp jolt through her body. She hesitated, her pulse racing. No one ever knocked this late unless it was bad news. Taking a cautious step forward, she peered through the peephole. A man stood outside, dressed in a crisp black suit. Even through the distorted glass, Anna recognized the kind of confidence he carried. He wasn't just another bill collector. He was something worse. Slowly, she unlatched the door but didn't open it fully. "Who are you?" Her voice was steady, but her grip on the doorknob tightened. The man smiled, his teeth gleaming under the dim hallway light. "Jack Moreau sends his regards." Anna's stomach twisted into knots. She had never met Jack Moreau face to face, but she knew his name. Everyone in the city did. A man who thrived on other people's misfortunes, a name whispered in fear. She forced herself to stand tall. "I don't know who you are or what you want, but I have nothing to do with him." The man let out a low chuckle. "That's not what Jack thinks." He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his breast pocket and held it up. "Your husband, ex-husband, David Carter, left behind quite a mess, and since he's nowhere to be found, you're next in line." Anna's blood turned to ice. She snatched the paper from his hand and scanned the words. A debt of $50,000, due immediately. She let out a slow breath. "I don't have that kind of money." The man's smile never faltered. "That's the problem, isn't it? You have 48 hours, Miss Carter. If you don't come up with a way to pay, Jack will take matters into his own hands." Her heart pounded violently. "And what exactly does that mean?" He took a step closer, forcing her to step back into the apartment. "It means," he said smoothly, "Jack doesn't like loose ends." Anna's fingers curled into fists. She wanted to slam the door in his face, but fear rooted her in place. The man tipped his head, adjusting the cuff of his suit. 48 hours, Miss Carter." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving the suffocating weight of his words hanging in the air. Anna barely registered the sound of the door clicking shut behind her as she sank into the nearest chair, gripping the debt notice so tightly that the paper crumpled beneath her fingertips. Her mind whirled. Rent, food, debt, and now a deadline that, if missed, could destroy everything. She had no savings, no safety net, and no one to turn to, except maybe for a job she no longer had. Her breath hitched, number that wasn't an option. But as she glanced at the foreclosure notice and the looming debt, she realized the truth she had been avoiding. She was out of time. Anna sat frozen in her chair, her mind racing through every possible way out of this nightmare. She had 2 children sleeping soundly in the next room, completely unaware of the storm closing in on them. She couldn't let them see her like this, panicked, desperate, teetering on the edge of losing everything. She clenched the crumpled debt notice in her fist and forced herself to breathe. There had to be a way. There had to be a way. Her first instinct was to call Ryan. He had always been there for her, ever since she moved into this apartment complex 3 years ago. But what could he really do? Loan her money? He barely made ends meet himself. And even if he could, $50,000 was an impossible amount. She needed a job, any job. With a surge of determination, Anna stood and grabbed her phone from the counter. It was late, but that didn't matter. She scrolled through her contacts until she reached the one person who might be able to help, Dr. Evelyn Brooks. Anna hesitated. The last time she spoke to Evelyn was when she was handed her termination letter. The hospital had made their decision. They weren't going to take her back. But what if there was something else? A temporary shift, a short-term position, anything. Before she could talk herself out of it, she pressed call. The phone rang 3 times before a voice answered, groggy and irritated. Anna? Anna swallowed hard. Dr. Brooks, I'm sorry for calling so late, but I figured it was an emergency, Evelyn interrupted, her voice clearing slightly. Are you okay? Anna let out a shaky breath. No, I'm not. She gripped the edge of the table. I need work. Anything. Please. There was a pause. Anna, I told you. I know, Anna cut in. The hospital had to make cuts. But I'm not asking for my old job back. I need something. A shift, a night position, private care, anything. Evelyn sighed. It's not that simple. Anna squeezed her eyes shut. I have 48 hours before I lose everything, Evelyn. My home, my kids' safety. I'm not asking for a favor. I'll work for it. Just tell me if there's anything. Silence stretched between them. Then a quiet exhale. There's a private clinic I know of, Evelyn finally said. They sometimes need extra hands for overnight care. It's not much and the pay isn't great, but I'll take it, Anna said immediately. I haven't even told you the details yet. I don't care. I'll take it. Evelyn hesitated. All right. I'll make some calls in the morning. But Anna, this isn't going to solve everything. Anna bit her lip. I just need time. That's all. Evelyn sighed again. Fine. I'll let you know by noon tomorrow. Thank you, Anna whispered before the call ended. She set the phone down and exhaled, trying to process what had just happened. It wasn't a solution, but it was something. A small flicker of hope stirred in her chest, but it was quickly overshadowed by the suffocating reality of her situation. 48 hours. The thought loomed over her like a dark cloud. She needed money now, and even if she could land this clinic job, it wouldn't be enough to clear the debt in time. Anna rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle over her. She needed sleep, but how could she rest when everything was crumbling? A sudden, sharp knock at the door made her jerk upright. Not again. Heart hammering, she crept toward the peephole. A different man stood outside this time. Not Jack's suit-wearing messenger. This man looked disheveled, worn down. Her stomach clenched. She knew that face. David. Her breath caught. He was supposed to be gone, so disappeared into whatever pit of debt and destruction he had dug for himself. Yet here he was. And if he was back, it could only mean one thing. Her fingers hovered over the lock, torn between slamming the door shut and demanding answers. But before she could decide, David knocked again, softer this time. "Anna," he called out, voice hoarse. "Please just let me in." Her grip tightened on the doorknob. She knew better, but she also knew that ignoring him wouldn't make him disappear. Slowly, she turned the lock and pulled the door open, just enough to meet his eyes. "What do you want, David?" The man who once swore to love her stood there, looking utterly defeated. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes hollow. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need your help." Anna's heart sank. Of course he did. Anna stood frozen in the doorway, gripping the edge of the door so tightly that her knuckles turned white. David's presence sent a wave of anger, fear, and confusion crashing over her all at once. She hadn't seen him in over a year. The last time they spoke, it had been over the phone. A heated argument about the gambling debt he had racked up, the debt that had eventually led him to disappear without a trace. She had stopped hoping he would come back. In fact, she had prayed that he wouldn't. Yet here he was, standing right in front of her, looking like a shadow of the man he used to be. "Please, Anna," he repeated, his voice lower this time, barely above a whisper. His eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward the door leading to their children's room. "Just let me talk." Anna's jaw tightened. Every instinct told her to shut the door in his face, to tell him to walk away like he had before. But then she thought of Jack Moreau, the debt, the deadline, and the fact that this whole mess had started with David. She exhaled sharply and stepped aside. "5 minutes," she said coldly. "Then you leave." David nodded quickly and stepped inside, his eyes darting around the apartment. It was small, cluttered with unpaid bills and the scattered remnants of a long, exhausting day. Anna crossed her arms. "Talk." David hesitated. He ran a hand over his face as if trying to find the right words. Then, finally, he spoke. "I know what's happening, Anna." He met her eyes, and for a brief second, she saw something that almost resembled guilt. "I know about Moreau." A chill ran down Anna's spine, but she kept her expression blank. "Oh, do you?" she said, voice laced with bitterness. "And why is that, David?" "Because you're the one who put me in this position in the first place." David flinched but nodded. "Yes, and I'm sorry." Anna let out a sharp laugh. "Sorry?" "Sorry doesn't change the fact that Moreau's men were at my door tonight, giving me 48 hours to pay a debt I never owed." David lowered his head. "I didn't think they'd come after you. I thought—" He exhaled, shaking his head. "I thought I had time." Anna narrowed her eyes. "Time for what, David? To run? To disappear again?" "No." He looked back up at her. "To fix this." Anna's stomach twisted. "Fix this?" she repeated. "How exactly do you plan on doing that?" David swallowed hard. "I know something about Moreau. Something big." Anna's patience was wearing thin. "Spit it out." David hesitated again, then leaned in closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "He's running more than just a loan shark business, Anna. He's tied up in something much bigger. Money laundering, fraud, even bribing officials. And I have proof." Anna's pulse quickened. "What kind of proof?" David reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a flash drive. He held it up between his fingers. "Everything's on here," he said, "but I need your help to use it." Anna stared at the flash drive as if it were a live grenade. David wanted her help? After everything he had put her through? She took a step back, shaking her head. "Number whatever this is, I want no part of it." David's face hardened. "Anna, if we don't use this, You and the kids will never be safe. Moreau doesn't just let people walk away. You pay, or you disappear." The weight of his words settled over her like a suffocating blanket. For the first time since this nightmare had begun, Anna realized that money wouldn't be enough to solve this problem. Moreau wasn't just another debt collector. He was something much worse. Anna's breath came shallow and uneven. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the weight of David's words settled in her chest. Jack Moreau wasn't just a loan shark. He was something far worse. She wanted to throw the flash drive across the room, to pretend none of this was happening, to shove David out the door and let him deal with the consequences of his own actions. But she couldn't, because it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her children. Anna clenched her fists, forcing herself to meet David's gaze. "And what exactly do you expect me to do with this?" David exhaled, glancing around the apartment before lowering his voice. "I need someone to get it into the right hands. The police won't touch Moreau unless they have airtight proof. This..." He lifted the flash drive slightly. "This could put him away for good." Anna's stomach twisted. "You expect me to go to the police? Just walk into a station and hand over evidence against one of the most dangerous men in the city?" David shook his head. "Not just any officer. There's a detective, Marcus Tate. He's been investigating Moreau for years, but never had enough to bring him down. This could change everything." Anna let out a bitter laugh. "And why should I believe you? Why should I believe that this isn't just another one of your schemes?" David's face darkened. "Because if I wanted to disappear and leave you to deal with this, I would have. But I came back, Anna. For you. For the kids. I know I've made mistakes, but this is my chance to make it right." Anna looked away, her jaw tightening. Every fiber of her being screamed not to trust him. But at the same time, she knew he was right about one thing. Moreau wouldn't just let her walk away, even if she paid off the debt. He'd find another reason to tighten his grip, another way to pull her under. She needed to end this. She took a deep breath. "How do I find Marcus Tate?" David hesitated for a moment before pulling a small slip of paper from his pocket. He handed it to her, his fingers brushing hers briefly before she snatched it away. "That's his number," David said. "He knows who I am. If you call him, tell him you have something that will change everything." Anna stared at the number, her hands shaking slightly. This was insane, reckless, but she was out of options. She shoved the paper into her pocket, then turned her attention back to David. "And what about you?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Are you just going to run again?" David shook his head. "I need to lay low. If Moreau finds out I'm still in the city, I'm dead. But I won't leave until I know you and the kids are safe." Anna studied him, searching for any sign of deception. For the first time in a long time, she saw something genuine in his eyes. Fear, regret, and maybe, just maybe, the smallest hint of redemption. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Fine. I'll call him. But if you screw this up, David..." "I won't," he cut in quickly. "I promise." Anna didn't believe in promises anymore, but she was willing to take the risk. For her children, for her future, for the chance to finally be free from Jack Moreau's grasp. As she reached for her phone, she knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back now. Anna sat at the edge of her couch, gripping her phone tightly. The slip of paper with Detective Marcus Tate's number rested on the coffee table in front of her, the numbers blurring in her vision as 1,000 thoughts ran through her mind. Could she trust him? Could she trust David? Everything about this felt like stepping into a fire she had no way of escaping, but she had no other choice. Taking a steadying breath, she punched in the numbers, her fingers trembling slightly. The phone rang twice before a gruff voice answered. "Tate!" Anna hesitated. She had rehearsed what she would say, but now that she was here, standing at the edge of the unknown, the words tangled in her throat. "Hello?" The detective's tone sharpened, impatient. She forced herself to speak. "Detective Tate, my name is Anna Carter. I was told you're investigating Jack Moreau." A pause. Then Tate's voice returned, cautious. "Who told you that?" Anna glanced at David, who sat across from her, his expression tense. "Someone who wants to make things right," she said, choosing her words carefully. "I have something you need. Proof that can take Moreau down." Another silence. This one longer. Then a sharp inhale. "Meet me. 30 minutes. Leclerc's Diner. Back booth." Before Anna could reply, the line went dead. She lowered the phone slowly, a knot forming in her stomach. David leaned forward. What did he say? "He wants to meet," she muttered. David exhaled in relief, but Anna wasn't sure she felt the same. She grabbed her coat and tucked the flash drive into her pocket, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Was this a setup? Could Tate be trusted? Or was she walking into another dangerous trap? But there was no time for doubts. If she wanted a way out of this nightmare, she had to take the risk. Without another word, she headed for the door. The cold night air hit Anna as she stepped outside, her nerves on edge with every step she took toward the street. The city was quieter at this hour, but she knew better than to feel safe. Danger didn't announce itself in places like this. It lurked in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. David walked beside her, his hood pulled up, his hands stuffed into his pockets. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" he asked. "Yes." Anna's voice was firm. "You showing up would make things worse." David clenched his jaw but didn't argue. He knew she was right. She flagged down a cab and climbed inside, the driver barely glancing at her as he pulled away from the curb. The ride to Leclerc's Diner was silent, except for the occasional honk from impatient drivers and the hum of the city outside. Anna's fingers drummed against her thigh. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to convince herself that this was the right move. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into something much bigger than she was prepared for. When the cab pulled up to the diner, she hesitated for just a second before pushing the door open and stepping out. The place was nearly empty. A waitress wiped down the counter, and a lone cook stood behind the grill, humming a tune. And then she saw him. Detective Marcus Tate sat in the back booth, his expression unreadable as he stirred a cup of coffee. He looked exactly like she imagined. Broad shoulders, worn leather jacket, the kind of face that had seen too much of the world and didn't trust any of it. Anna walked toward him, her steps measured, cautious. He didn't speak as she slid into the booth across from him. He just studied her, his dark eyes flicking over her face, assessing. Finally, he leaned back. "You said you had proof." Anna swallowed hard and reached into her pocket, pulling out the flash drive. She set it on the table between them. Tate didn't reach for it immediately. He just stared at it. Then he looked at her. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" he asked. Anna met his gaze, unwavering. "Because if it were, I'd already be dead." Tate smirked, but there was no amusement in his eyes. He picked up the flash drive and turned it between his fingers. "What's on it?" Financial records, offshore accounts, corrupt officials, evidence that Moreau is laundering money through shell businesses across the city. Tate let out a low whistle. And where did you get this? Anna hesitated. A source. Tate scoffed. That source being your ex-husband? Her stomach twisted. Are you going to help me or not? Tate studied her for a long moment before finally sighing. If this is legit, it's enough to start something. But taking down Moreau isn't going to be easy. He's got cops, judges, politicians in his pocket. People who will do anything to protect him. Anna's hands clenched into fists beneath the table. So what do we do? Tate exhaled, slipping the flash drive into his jacket. We start a war. Anna's breath caught in her throat. A war, and she had just become a part of it. Anna walked out of Leclerc's diner, her heart pounding against her ribs. Tate's last words echoed in her mind. We start a war. This wasn't just about paying off a debt anymore. She had stepped into something far bigger, something that wouldn't just disappear if she ignored it. The cold air bit at her skin as she hurried down the sidewalk. She needed to get back home before anyone noticed she was gone. David was waiting for her, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to tell him what Tate had said. She hailed a cab, sliding into the back seat, her fingers twitching as she tapped them against her knee. The driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror, but didn't say a word. Her mind raced. If Tate was right, if this flash drive really held the power to take Moreau down, then what came next? Would Moreau find out she had it? Would he retaliate before the police could do anything? By the time the cab pulled up outside her apartment, the weight of those questions settled in her chest like a stone. She stepped out and climbed the stairs quickly, unlocking the door with careful movements. The apartment was dark except for the faint glow from the kitchen. David was still awake, sitting at the table, his fingers wrapped around a half-empty cup of coffee. He looked up as she entered. Well? His voice was low, cautious. Anna closed the door behind her and leaned against it. He took it, she said. Tate took the flash drive. David exhaled, running a hand through his hair. And he said this is enough to start a war. David stilled. A war? Anna nodded, pushing off the door and stepping further inside. He said Moreau has too many people in his pocket. This isn't just about one man, it's bigger than that. David cursed under his breath. I told you it wouldn't be simple. Anna folded her arms, exhaustion creeping into her bones. I don't care about simple. I just want this to be over. David studied her for a long moment before sighing. Then we need to prepare. Anna frowned. Prepare for what? David's jaw tightened. For the moment Moreau finds out what we've done. A chill ran down Anna's spine. Because if Moreau didn't already know, he would soon. Anna barely had time to process David's warning before a sharp knock at the door made both of them freeze. Her heart jumped to her throat. She shot David a look, her mind already running through worst-case scenarios. Had Moreau found out this quickly? Was this it? David stood first, moving silently toward the window. He peered through the blinds, his shoulders stiffening. It's not Moreau, he whispered. It's Olivia Caldwell. Anna blinked. Olivia? The last time they had crossed paths, Olivia had made it perfectly clear she didn't trust her. David looked at her. What do you want to do? Anna hesitated, then squared her shoulders and marched toward the door. She unlatched it, opening just enough to see Olivia standing there, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. We need to talk, Olivia said flatly. Anna tightened her grip on the door. I didn't think you were the kind of person who made house calls. Olivia let out a humorless chuckle. I'm not. But my brother seems to think you're someone worth protecting. And considering what I just found out, I'm beginning to think he's right. Anna's pulse quickened. What are you talking about? Olivia exhaled sharply, glancing up and down the hallway before stepping closer. I know you met with Tate, and if I know, it's only a matter of time before Moreau does too. Anna stiffened. How do you know that? Because I've been keeping an eye on things. Moreau's people are watching the police, watching Tate. If he so much as breathes in Moreau's direction, they'll know. And trust me, once that happens, they're coming for you first. Anna's stomach dropped. David moved beside her, his voice low. Why are you here, Olivia? Olivia's gaze flicked between them before she sighed. Because whether I like it or not, you forced Thomas into this mess. And if he's in it, I have no choice but to be too. Anna narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? It means, Olivia said, that you need a way out before Moreau tightens the noose. Anna swallowed hard, the weight of those words pressing down on her. Because Olivia was right. This wasn't just about fighting back anymore. This was about survival. Anna shut the door behind Olivia and turned to face her, arms crossed tightly over her chest. David lingered nearby, his eyes wary, his body tense as if expecting trouble. Start talking, Anna said, keeping her voice steady despite the unease creeping through her veins. You wouldn't be here if this wasn't serious. Olivia exhaled sharply and sat down at the small kitchen table, tapping her nails against the wooden surface. I had someone dig into Moreau's recent movements. He knows something is off, even if he hasn't figured out exactly what yet. She looked up at Anna. But that won't last. The moment Tate makes his first move, Moreau's going to start asking questions. And when he does, he's going to come looking for you. Anna swallowed hard. She had known this was a possibility, but hearing it from Olivia made it feel more real, more inevitable. So what do you suggest? David asked, his voice edged with skepticism. Running? Olivia scoffed. You think running will help? Moreau has people everywhere. If you disappear, he'll see it as confirmation that you're guilty of something. Anna's stomach churned. Then what do we do? Olivia leaned forward, her gaze sharp. We get ahead of him. We make it look like you're not the weak link in all of this. David frowned. And how exactly do we do that? A flicker of hesitation crossed Olivia's face before she finally said, by making Moreau believe that someone inside his own operation betrayed him. Silence hung in the air. Anna stared at her. You want to turn his own people against him? Olivia nodded. It won't be easy, but if we can plant doubt in his mind, make him think there's a leak on the inside, it'll buy us time. Maybe even shift his focus away from you. David shook his head. That's risky. It's necessary, Olivia countered. The alternative is waiting for him to make his move first, and by then, it'll be too late. Anna glanced at David, then back at Olivia. Every instinct told her this was dangerous, that they were playing a game they couldn't afford to lose. But Olivia was right. They were already in the fire. Now, they had to decide how to survive it. Anna took a slow, deep breath, forcing her racing thoughts into order. Olivia's plan was insane, but it was also the only real option they had. Waiting meant death. Running meant death. If they were going to survive, they had to fight back. She met Olivia's gaze. How do we do it? Olivia leaned forward, her voice steady, confident. We spread misinformation. Make it seem like someone inside Moreau's circle has been working against him. He's paranoid enough as it is. If we give him a reason to doubt his own men, he'll start looking inward instead of at you." David ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head. "That's still a long shot. Moreau doesn't just turn on his people unless he has proof." "We'll give him proof," Olivia said simply. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Olivia reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small, unmarked USB drive. "I have files, fabricated but convincing, showing falsified wire transfers, emails, and encrypted messages between one of Moreau's trusted men and an unknown source. It'll make it look like someone inside his operation has been leaking information." Anna's pulse quickened. "And how do we make sure he sees it?" David exhaled sharply, rubbing his jaw. "Someone has to plant it somewhere he'll find it." Silence fell between them. Anna's stomach twisted. "You want one of us to do it?" Olivia didn't blink. "Yes," David scoffed. "That's suicide." "Not if it's done right," Olivia countered. "We don't have to walk into Moreau's office and hand it to him personally. We just need to place it somewhere one of his men will find it, and make sure it leads straight back to them." Anna's mind reeled. The risk was enormous, but so was the alternative. David rubbed a hand over his face. "Who's the target?" Olivia's expression hardened. "Elijah Novak." Anna's breath caught. "Novak?" She knew the name. Moreau's right-hand man. Quiet, calculated, dangerous. If Moreau trusted anyone, it was him. David let out a low whistle. "Framing Novak means war." Olivia nodded. "Which is exactly why it'll work. Moreau won't question it. He'll just react. And by the time he realizes the truth, it'll be too late." Anna felt the weight of what they were about to do settle over her. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was about taking control. And if they pulled it off, Moreau wouldn't just stop looking for her. He'd tear his own empire apart. Anna sat in silence, staring at the small USB drive Olivia had placed on the table. The weight of the decision before her pressed against her chest like an invisible force, suffocating and inescapable. Framing Elijah Novak meant stepping into a war they might not be able to control. If it worked, Moreau would turn his attention inward, tearing apart his own empire in a desperate hunt for the traitor. But if it failed, if Novak saw through their deception, there would be no second chances. Anna swallowed hard. "How do we make sure Novak finds this?" Olivia leaned forward, her expression calculating. "Novak handles Moreau's financial security. He's meticulous, but that also makes him predictable. He runs frequent system checks, scanning for breaches. If we plant this file somewhere he's guaranteed to find it, he'll report it straight to Moreau." David let out a slow breath. "That still leaves the problem of access. We can't just walk into his office and drop a flash drive on his desk." Olivia smirked. "We don't have to. We'll use someone on the inside." Anna's stomach clenched. "You have someone in Moreau's crew?" Olivia's expression darkened. "Not exactly, but I know someone who does." She reached for her phone, scrolling through her contacts before tapping on a number. The call barely rang twice before a deep male voice answered. "Didn't expect to hear from you, Caldwell." "Yeah, well, I don't usually get myself tangled in other people's messes," Olivia said dryly. "But today's an exception." A low chuckle. "That doesn't sound like you. What do you need?" Olivia's tone turned serious. "An inch. Someone close to Novak." A pause. Then, the man on the other end sighed. "You're playing with fire." "We know," Olivia said. "That's why I'm calling you." Anna shifted in her seat, listening intently. Whoever Olivia was talking to, he wasn't thrilled about the request. Finally, the voice on the other end muttered, "There's a guy. Works for Novak. Low level, but he's been itching to move up in Moreau's ranks. If you can make it worth his while, he might be willing to help." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Name?" "Luca Romero." Anna frowned. The name was vaguely familiar. David glanced at Olivia. "You trust this guy?" "I trust his ambition," the man on the phone replied. "That's all that matters." Olivia exchanged a glance with Anna before nodding. "Set it up." The call ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Anna exhaled slowly. So now what? Olivia pocketed her phone. Now we meet Luca Romero. Anna wasn't sure if this was the beginning of their salvation or their destruction. But there was no turning back now. The following evening, Anna found herself sitting in the dimly lit corner of a rundown bar on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place where deals were made in whispers and trust was as fragile as the glass bottles lining the shelves. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and cheap whiskey, the faint hum of an old jukebox filling the space between hushed conversations. She sat across from Olivia and David, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she had no intention of drinking. Every nerve in her body was on edge, waiting for the man who could either save them or bury them deeper in Moreau's crosshairs. Then, the door swung open. Luca Romero stepped inside, moving with the casual confidence of a man who knew how to navigate dangerous waters. He was lean, dressed in dark jeans and a fitted leather jacket, his jet-black hair slicked back. His sharp, calculating eyes swept across the room before landing on Olivia. A smirk tugged at his lips as he made his way toward them. "Well, well," he drawled, sliding into the booth across from Olivia. "Didn't think I'd be getting a call from you, Caldwell. Thought you kept your hands clean of this kind of business." Olivia gave him a tight smile. "Desperate times." Luca's eyes flicked to Anna and David. "And these two? Friends of yours?" Anna straightened. "Let's just say we have mutual interests." Luca let out a low chuckle. "I like that." He drummed his fingers against the table before leaning in slightly. "So tell me, what exactly do you need from me?" Olivia didn't waste time. "You work under Novak. We need you to plant something where he'll find it. Something that'll make Moreau think he's been compromised." Luca raised an eyebrow. "You want me to frame Novak?" David tensed beside Anna, but she forced herself to remain calm, watching Luca carefully. Olivia nodded. "We need Moreau looking at his own people, not at us. You get this to Novak, and we'll make it worth your while." Luca leaned back, considering. "And what's stopping Novak from figuring out the truth? From turning it back on me?" Anna spoke before Olivia could. "Because we'll make sure it doesn't point to you. Moreau will be so busy hunting for his traitor that he won't even question where the information came from." Luca studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he exhaled, shaking his head with a smirk. "You've got some nerve, lady." Anna's jaw tightened. "That's not an answer." Luca tapped the table lightly before finally nodding. "Fine, but this isn't free." Olivia's expression didn't waver. "How much?" Luca grinned. $10,000. David let out a low curse under his breath. "That's insane." Luca shrugged. "Maybe. But it's the price of playing in Moreau's world. If I do this, I need a reason for him to trust me afterward. Something that'll keep my hands clean. 10 grand makes me a guy looking for a payday, not a rat." Anna swallowed. They didn't have $10,000, but they also didn't have a choice. Olivia met Luca's gaze, considering. Then she nodded. You'll get your money. Luca's smirk widened. Then we have a deal. He reached for the USB drive Olivia slid across the table and tucked it into his pocket. Give me 2 days. Novak will find this exactly where he needs to. He pushed up from the booth, adjusting his jacket. I'd suggest you lay low until then. Once this lands, things are gonna get messy. Anna's stomach twisted as she watched him walk away, the weight of their decision settling over her like a lead blanket. They had set the plan in motion. Now all they could do was wait, and hope that when Moreau's world started to crumble, they wouldn't be buried with it. The next 48 hours were the longest of Anna's life. Every sound outside her apartment made her jump. Every knock on the door sent her pulse skyrocketing. Sleep was out of the question. She stayed glued to her phone, waiting for Olivia's call, for any confirmation that Luca had followed through. But silence stretched between them, thick with unease. David paced the length of the living room, restless. This is taking too long, he muttered. What if Luca bailed? What if he took the money and ran? Anna clenched her jaw. Then we're dead. David stopped pacing, rubbing a hand over his face. Great. Fantastic. She knew he was scared. She was too. But snapping at each other wouldn't help. Olivia had told them to lay low, to act normal. But what did that even mean when their entire world was about to implode? The thought barely finished forming when Anna's phone vibrated. Olivia. She answered immediately. Tell me you have good news. I have news, Olivia said. Meet me in an hour. The rooftop of the Langston parking garage. Come alone. The line went dead. Anna lowered the phone slowly. David frowned. What did she say? She wants to meet, Anna said, grabbing her coat. Alone. David swore. That's a bad idea. Anna knew he was right, but she also knew Olivia wouldn't have called if it wasn't important. I'll be fine, she said, heading for the door. Just stay here. Keep an eye on the kids. David muttered something under his breath but didn't stop her. Outside, the city was alive with movement. Cars speeding through the streets, people going about their business, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath their feet. Anna took a cab to the Langston parking garage, her heart hammering the whole way. When she reached the rooftop, Olivia was already there, leaning against the railing, arms crossed. Anna walked over, shoving her hands into her jacket pockets. Well? Olivia exhaled. Luca did his job. Novak found the drive. Anna's stomach twisted. And? Olivia turned to face her fully. And Moreau's pissed. Novak is scrambling, trying to prove his loyalty, but Moreau isn't convinced. He's pulling his entire crew into a meeting tonight to get to the bottom of this. Anna's breath hitched. Tonight? Olivia nodded. Which means if we want to make our next move, we do it now. Anna's pulse raced. What do you mean? Olivia looked her dead in the eye. We're going to push Moreau over the edge. A cold chill ran down Anna's spine. This was it. No turning back now. Anna's fingers curled into fists inside her jacket pockets. Push him over the edge? And what exactly does that mean, Olivia? Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded in her chest. Olivia turned to face her fully, the sharp city lights casting shadows across her face. It means we make sure he doesn't have time to think, time to realize he's being played. He's already questioning Novak, but it's not enough. We need to make him believe that the leak is real, that Novak has been feeding information to the cops for months. Anna shook her head. And how do we do that? Olivia's lips curled into something resembling a smirk, but there was no amusement in it. We give him a reason to panic. Anna didn't like the sound of that. Olivia, I have a contact inside Moreau's operation, Olivia interrupted. A guy who hears things. If I feed him the right piece of information, something that sounds like it came from Novak, he'll take it straight to Moreau. She glanced at Anna, measuring her reaction. Moreau is already paranoid. If he thinks Novak has been working with the cops this whole time, he won't hesitate. He'll move fast. He won't stop to ask questions. Anna inhaled sharply, trying to process what she was hearing. And what if he figures out Novak isn't actually the mole? What if he turns his attention back on us? Olivia's expression darkened. Then we make sure that by the time he realizes the truth, it's too late. A lump formed in Anna's throat. She wasn't a criminal. She had never been someone who played mind games, who manipulated situations to her advantage. But Moreau had left her no choice. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her kids, her future. It was survival. She looked at Olivia, forcing the doubt out of her voice. What do you need me to do? Olivia didn't hesitate. I need you to be seen. Anna blinked. Seen where? At Novak's bar. Anna felt the blood drain from her face. Novak ran an exclusive lounge downtown, a place where Moreau's people gathered, where deals were made behind closed doors. It wasn't somewhere outsiders just walked into. If you show up there, make yourself visible, just enough for someone to report it back to Moreau. It'll look like you and Novak have a connection, Olivia explained. And if Moreau is already suspicious, it'll be enough to push him over the edge. Anna exhaled shakily, glancing at the city skyline. She could feel the ground beneath her shifting, the walls closing in. If we do this, she murmured, there's no undoing it. Olivia's gaze was unwavering. That's the point. Anna forced herself to nod. Fine, I'll do it. Olivia reached into her pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside are instructions, the time, the location. You go in, you order a drink, you sit at the bar for exactly 15 minutes, then you leave. That's it. Nothing more. Anna took the envelope, feeling its weight in her hands. It was a simple plan on the surface, but she knew better. One wrong move, one suspicious glance, and she could be walking straight into a death sentence. But she had made her choice. She pocketed the envelope and turned back toward the exit. Let's get this over with. Olivia watched her go, her expression unreadable. But Anna didn't look back. She had a role to play now. And if she was going to survive this, she had to make Moreau believe every second of it. The moment Anna stepped into the Monarch, Novak's exclusive lounge, she felt the shift in atmosphere. The place oozed wealth and danger in equal measure. Dim golden lights reflected off the polished marble floors, and the hum of low conversations mixed with the faint clink of expensive whiskey glasses. Everything about this place screamed power, the kind that crushed people like her without a second thought. She moved toward the bar, keeping her pace steady, controlled. 15 minutes. That was the plan. Stay long enough to be noticed, short enough not to raise immediate suspicion. But the air around her was charged, eyes subtly flicking in her direction, measuring, assessing. Olivia had warned her this would happen. She had to act like she belonged. Sliding onto a sleek leather stool, Anna caught the bartender's eye. He was tall, clean-cut, efficient, probably used to dealing with Moreau's people. She leaned slightly forward, her voice cool but casual. Whiskey, neat. He gave her a brief nod and moved to pour the drink. Anna could feel the weight of unseen gazes pressing against her back. She didn't need to turn around to know that someone had taken notice. That was the point. The drink arrived, amber liquid shimmering under the low light. She lifted the glass to her lips, took a slow sip, and set it down, all while forcing herself to look at ease. This is working. The thought did little to calm the tension coiling in her stomach. A shadow moved in her peripheral vision. A man slid onto the stool beside her. Didn't think I'd see a new face in here. His voice was smooth, amused. Anna didn't turn immediately. She let a pause settle between them before glancing sideways. He was in his late 40s, wearing a navy suit that fit him too well to be off the rack. One of Moreau's men. She could tell by the way he carried himself. Sharp, confident, like someone who knew he had power. She smiled, just enough to be polite but distant. I'm not one for routines. The man chuckled, swirling the dark liquid in his own glass. That so? Because from where I'm sitting, you don't look like someone who just wandered in. Anna held his gaze, keeping her breathing steady. Maybe I wanted a change of scenery. The man smirked. Or maybe you wanted to be seen. Her fingers tensed around the glass. There it was, the confirmation that they had taken the bait. Now she just had to make it out of here alive. Anna forced herself to maintain a calm, steady expression. The man beside her exuded quiet authority, the kind that didn't need to be announced. He wasn't just some low-level thug. He was someone close enough to Moreau to recognize a potential threat the moment it walked through the door. She let a small, knowing smile play on her lips as she lifted her whiskey and took another measured sip. I didn't realize having a drink in a nice place required an explanation. The man's smirk deepened, but there was no warmth in it. In this place? It does. People don't just show up at the Monarch without a reason. He let the words hang in the air, watching her reaction. Anna met his gaze, knowing full well she was walking a thin line between curiosity and suspicion. And here I thought a place like this thrived on discretion. The man leaned slightly closer, just enough to make his presence more imposing. It does, but it also thrives on control. He tapped his fingers against his glass before tilting his head. Let's cut to it. You don't belong here. The question is, do you want to? Anna felt her pulse quicken. Careful. She couldn't push too hard or seem too eager. She had to play this exactly right. She exhaled softly, pretending to consider his words as she swirled the whiskey in her glass. I don't believe in forcing doors open, she said, lifting her eyes to his. If a room is worth entering, it lets the right people in. The man studied her, amusement flickering across his face. He appreciated the game she was playing. More importantly, he was taking the bait. Interesting answer, he murmured. Tell me, how do you know Elijah Novak? Anna's grip on her glass tightened just slightly, though she forced herself to keep her demeanor smooth. This was it. The real test. The reason she was here. If she answered wrong, she wouldn't be walking out of the Monarch tonight. She let a slow, deliberate pause stretch between them before speaking. I don't. The man's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture, a subtle tension. Then why does your name keep coming up? Anna arched an eyebrow. That's something you'd have to ask him. Silence, thick and heavy. Then the man chuckled, shaking his head. You've got nerve, I'll give you that. He drained the last of his drink, setting the glass down with a soft clink. If you're lying, you're either really good at it or really stupid. Anna smiled. Guess we'll find out. The man stared at her a second longer before pushing back from the bar. Enjoy your drink, Miss Carter. And just like that, he was gone. Anna sat still for a few moments, her body rigid, waiting to see if anything would happen. But no one else approached. Time to go. She finished the last sip of her whiskey, placed the glass neatly on the counter, and stood. 15 minutes. Exactly as Olivia instructed. As she made her way toward the exit, she could feel eyes on her, tracking her movements. But no one stopped her. No one spoke. Stepping out into the cool night air, she took a slow, measured breath. It had worked. Moreau's people had noticed her. They were asking questions. And now, just as Olivia planned, the real chaos would begin. She crossed the street, disappearing into the shadows before pulling out her phone. She dialed quickly, pressing the device to her ear as she walked. Olivia picked up on the first ring. "Well?" Anna kept her voice even, but her pulse was still racing. They took the bait. There was a beat of silence before Olivia exhaled sharply. "Good. Now we wait." Anna ended the call and slipped her phone back into her pocket. As she walked down the empty street, she couldn't shake the feeling that things had only just begun, and that the next move, it wouldn't be hers to make. Anna barely slept that night. Every sound outside her apartment had her on edge. Every distant car engine or passing shadow sent her nerves flaring. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the inevitable fallout from the night before. She had done what Olivia asked. She had been seen, had made them notice her, and now the real game had begun. By morning, the city felt different. It wasn't just paranoia. Something had shifted. The streets were tense, like an invisible wire stretched too tight, ready to snap. Anna could feel it in the way people moved, in the hurried glances exchanged at street corners, in the way even the usual noise of New Orleans seemed muted, expectant. David noticed it too. He sat at the kitchen table, barely touching his coffee, his eyes dark with something between exhaustion and dread. "You think it worked?" he asked, voice low. Anna didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled out her phone and checked for messages. Nothing. Olivia had told her to wait, but the silence was suffocating. She exhaled slowly. "We'll know soon enough." David drummed his fingers against the table, his movements restless. "And if it didn't?" Anna met his gaze. "Then we run." She wasn't sure if she believed it, but she had to say it, had to keep the illusion of control, even if it was slipping through her fingers. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. A single message from Olivia. "It's happening." Anna's breath hitched. She looked at David, her stomach twisting. "It's starting." David's face tightened. "Then we better be ready." Anna grabbed her coat, her pulse pounding. Whatever was about to happen, there was no stopping it now. Anna could feel the tension crackling in the air like a brewing storm. Olivia's message, short and ominous, sent her mind into overdrive. It's happening. She didn't know exactly what that meant yet, but it was clear that Moreau had taken the bait. She turned to David, who was already standing, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "We need to move. If this is really happening, Moreau isn't going to sit around waiting for answers. He'll start looking. And we can't be here when he does." David ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting toward the front door as if expecting someone to kick it down any second. "And go where?" "We don't exactly have a safe house waiting for us." Anna hesitated. He was right. Running blind wasn't a plan. It was suicide. But staying here was just as bad. They needed an out. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Olivia. "Novak is cornered." Moreau called a meeting. "You need to get out now." Anna's breath caught. Novak is cornered. That meant Moreau had bought the lie. He was moving, reacting exactly the way they had planned, but that also meant things were escalating much faster than expected. She grabbed her bag and stuffed a few essentials inside: her phone charger, some cash, and the emergency stash of documents she kept hidden under the kitchen sink. "We're leaving," she said firmly, slinging the bag over her shoulder. "We'll figure out the rest later." David didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket and followed her to the door. Just as she reached for the handle, another vibration in her pocket stopped her. Another message. But this time, it wasn't from Olivia. It was an unknown number. "You shouldn't have done that." A cold chill ran down Anna's spine. She stared at the message, her fingers gripping the phone tighter. David noticed her hesitation. "What?" She turned the screen toward him. The moment he saw the message, his expression darkened. "We need to go. Now." Anna shoved the phone into her pocket and yanked the door open. They stepped out into the hallway, moving fast. Every muscle in her body was screaming at her to run, but she forced herself to keep her pace steady, normal. They couldn't afford to look like they were fleeing. They reached the parking lot just as Olivia's car pulled up to the curb. She barely gave them time to open the doors before she snapped, "Get in." Anna and David slid into the back seat, slamming the doors shut. Olivia peeled away from the curb before either of them could even ask what was happening. Anna leaned forward. "Tell me everything." Olivia's grip on the steering wheel was tight, her knuckles white. "Novak panicked," she said. "He realized the file was planted, but by the time he tried to cover his tracks, it was too late. Moreau's convinced someone in his inner circle betrayed him. He called an emergency meeting at one of his warehouses." Anna's stomach churned. This was exactly what they wanted. But why did it feel like they had just lit a fuse they couldn't control? David shifted beside her. "So what happens now?" Olivia's jaw tightened. "Now?" Now Moreau is going to start tearing his organization apart looking for answers. And when he realizes Novak isn't the real leak. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Anna closed her eyes for a second, forcing herself to breathe. They had planned for this, anticipated Moreau's paranoia, his need for control. But there was a difference between strategizing a move and watching it unfold in real time. She looked at Olivia. "We need to know what's happening inside that meeting." Olivia glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Already handled." Anna frowned. "What do you mean?" A ghost of a smirk flickered across Olivia's face. "Let's just say Moreau's not the only one who can plant people where they don't belong." Anna's heart skipped a beat. "You have someone inside?" Olivia didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a sharp turn, heading toward an unfamiliar part of town. "There's an old lot a few blocks from the warehouse. We'll wait there. When the meeting's over, my guy will give us the rundown." Anna pressed her lips together. She wasn't sure if she should be impressed or terrified by Olivia's ability to manipulate the situation so perfectly. David, however, didn't look as convinced. "And what if Moreau figures out he has a rat in the room?" Olivia's face remained unreadable. "Then we hope Novak is the first one he goes after." The car fell into silence after that. The minutes stretched endlessly as Olivia navigated through the back streets, finally pulling into an abandoned parking lot filled with rusted-out cars and cracked pavement. They sat in the shadows, waiting. Anna checked her phone compulsively, but there were no new messages. Her hands were sweating. She wiped them against her jeans and forced herself to look at Olivia. "Who's your guy?" Olivia's gaze remained forward. "A bartender who works for Novak. He hears everything, and he knows how to stay invisible." Anna exhaled. That was something. At least they weren't completely blind. Time dragged on. 30 minutes passed, then 40. The anticipation gnawed at her insides. Then finally, Olivia's phone buzzed. She answered immediately. "Talk." Anna leaned in, straining to hear. The voice on the other end was low, rushed. "It's bad," the man said. "Novak didn't go down easy. He fought back." Anna's stomach twisted. "How bad?" Olivia asked. A pause, then, "They killed him." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Anna barely heard Olivia's response before the call ended. The car felt too small, the air too thick. Novak was dead. Moreau had made his move. And now, they were next. The weight of the news settled over the car like a suffocating fog. Novak was dead. Moreau had acted faster than any of them expected. He hadn't wasted time interrogating, hadn't given Novak a chance to defend himself. He had simply eliminated him. And now, there was no telling what he would do next. Anna's fingers dug into her thighs as she tried to steady her breathing. "This was supposed to buy us time," she muttered, barely recognizing her own voice. "Not accelerate everything." David shifted in his seat, rubbing a hand down his face. Moreau isn't thinking rationally anymore. If he killed Novak that quickly, he's scared. And when men like him get scared, they get reckless. Olivia tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her jaw clenched. "Which means we have to move before he does." Anna swallowed hard, her mind spinning. They had planned to redirect Moreau's attention, not ignite an all-out war. But now, with Novak dead, Moreau wouldn't stop looking for answers. And if he started digging deeper, it wouldn't take long before he figured out that Anna was the common denominator. Her phone buzzed, making her jump. A text from an unknown number. "You started this. You better be ready for what's coming." A cold chill ran down her spine. She turned the screen toward Olivia and David. "He knows." David cursed under his breath. "That could be anyone." "It's Moreau," Olivia said, her voice tight. "And he's making it clear that we're next." Silence stretched between them, thick with the weight of what was coming. There was no running anymore, no waiting for the pieces to fall into place. Moreau was coming for them, and if they didn't act now, they wouldn't live to see the end of this. Olivia started the engine, her movements sharp and controlled. "We need to hit first." Anna turned to her. "Hit first?" Olivia's eyes darkened. "We take Moreau down before he can take us." David scoffed. "Oh, sure. Let's just waltz into his empire and tell him to step aside." Olivia's expression remained unreadable. "Not us. The police. We forced Tate's hand." Anna blinked. "Tate isn't ready." "He doesn't have a choice anymore," Olivia shot back. "We bring him what he needs, concrete evidence, something he can't ignore. And we force his move. Moreau has cops in his pocket, but even they can't protect him if the right kind of heat is on him." Anna exhaled, her pulse pounding. It was risky. No, it was insane. But it was the only move left. David shook his head. "We don't have anything solid enough to bring him down." Olivia smirked. "Not yet, but we're about to." Anna's breath caught. She had a plan, and if it worked, Moreau wouldn't see it coming. Anna stared at Olivia, her pulse hammering in her chest. "What do you mean we're about to?" she asked cautiously. Olivia's grip on the steering wheel tightened, the muscles in her jaw flexing. "Moreau runs his operation like a machine, tight, controlled, nothing out of place. But machines have weaknesses, and I know where to find them." David frowned. "You keep saying that, but what do you actually have?" Olivia exhaled sharply, her fingers drumming against the wheel before she finally spoke. Novak was the guy who handled Moreau's money, but he wasn't the only one. Moreau has another fixer, a financial guy named Victor Langley. He's the real key to everything. He launders the money, cleans up the dirty trails, makes sure nothing ever touches Moreau directly. Anna narrowed her eyes. And let me guess, if Langley goes down, so does Moreau. Olivia nodded. Langley is paranoid. He keeps records of everything, just in case he ever needs leverage. If we can get our hands on those records, we won't just have enough to bury Moreau, we'll have enough to burn his entire empire to the ground. David scoffed. And where exactly do we find these magic records? Olivia's smirk was cold. Langley operates out of a private office in an upscale high-rise downtown. He's careful. Only a few trusted people ever get through his doors. But I know for a fact that he keeps hard copies of everything. Anna's stomach twisted. Hard copies? Olivia's gaze locked onto hers. Which means we're breaking in. The words hit like a slap. Anna's body stiffened. Are you insane? David threw his hands up. Oh, great. So now we're criminals? Olivia rolled her eyes. You think Moreau isn't already planning worse for us? You think he's going to let you walk away after Novak's death? Face it, we're already criminals in his eyes. The only difference is whether we walk away from this or end up in a ditch. Anna inhaled slowly, forcing herself to think. The idea was reckless, borderline suicidal, but Olivia wasn't wrong. If they could get something damning on Langley, they could cut off Moreau's power before he even had a chance to strike back. David rubbed his face, muttering something under his breath before finally sighing. Okay, let's say we do this. How the hell do we get inside? A guy like Langley has security. Olivia's lips curled. That's the easy part. He has a weakness. Anna's heart pounded. What is it? Olivia's smirk widened. His assistant. Anna blinked. You're joking. I never joke about blackmail, Olivia replied smoothly. Her name is Sophia Kent. She's been working for Langley for 5 years, but get this. She's been skimming from him the entire time. Only a few thousand here and there. But Langley? He'd kill her if he found out. David exhaled, rubbing his temples. So what, we scare her into helping us? Olivia shook her head. We make her an offer. Anna's chest tightened. And if she says no? Olivia's eyes darkened. She won't. Silence filled the car. They were really going to do this. Anna's hands curled into fists in her lap. Moreau had started this war, but now she was going to finish it. She looked at Olivia. Tell me everything you know about Sophia Kent. Olivia smiled. I thought you'd never ask. Sophia Kent was not the kind of woman who made mistakes. She was meticulous, polished, and careful, qualities that had allowed her to survive working for a man like Victor Langley. But everyone had a weakness, and Sophia's was simple. Greed. Olivia had done her homework, and over the years, Sophia had quietly siphoned money from Langley's operations, skimming small amounts that wouldn't raise alarms. The problem? Langley didn't tolerate betrayal, not even in the smallest doses. If he found out what she had done, she wouldn't just be fired, she'd disappear. And that was exactly why Olivia knew she wouldn't say no to their offer. The plan was set. Anna, David, and Olivia arrived at a sleek cafe a few blocks from Langley's office, a place where Sophia liked to take her morning coffee break. They sat at an outside table, waiting. The minutes crawled, tension tightening around Anna's chest with each second that passed. Then finally, Sophia appeared, dressed in a tailored navy dress, her blonde hair sleek, her heels clicking against the pavement with precision. She moved like someone in control, like someone who had never once considered herself vulnerable. That was about to change. As Sophia approached the cafe counter, Olivia stood. "Stay here," she muttered under her breath before striding toward the other woman. Anna and David watched as Olivia slid in beside Sophia, speaking low and calm. At first, Sophia barely reacted, her posture stiff but indifferent. But then Olivia said something, and everything changed. Sophia's fingers tightened around her coffee cup, her shoulders tensed, and her gaze snapped toward Olivia with pure panic. Olivia stayed composed, barely moving, letting the weight of her words settle. Then, slowly, she pulled something from her pocket, a flash drive. She placed it on the cafe counter between them, her expression unreadable. Sophia's face paled. She reached for the drive with careful, shaking fingers. Her eyes flicked toward Olivia, searching for something. Mercy, maybe. But Olivia didn't budge. Whatever was on that drive, it was real. After a long pause, Sophia exhaled and nodded stiffly. Olivia smiled, a small, satisfied curve of her lips. Then, as smoothly as she had approached, she turned and walked away. Anna and David sat frozen as Olivia returned to their table. She grabbed her coffee, took a slow sip, and smirked. "She's in." Anna released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That was fast," Olivia chuckled. "Sophia isn't stupid. She knows this is her only way out." She leaned forward. "We meet her tonight. She's going to give us everything." David glanced at Anna, then back at Olivia. "And if she double-crosses us?" Olivia's smirk vanished. "She won't." She tapped her phone. "Because if she does, Langley will get a copy of that drive before the night is over." Anna shivered. The plan was airtight. They had backed Sophia into a corner. Now all they had to do was make their move. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. That night, the three of them drove to a secluded parking lot outside the city, a location Sophia had chosen. It was far enough from Langley's office and Moreau's reach, but not so isolated that it would raise suspicions if things went south. Anna sat in the back seat, staring at the glowing city skyline, her mind racing. "This feels too easy," David muttered from the front passenger seat, voicing the exact thought that had been gnawing at Anna. Olivia, behind the wheel, exhaled sharply. "It's not easy. It's calculated. Sophia knows she has no other choice. She's scared, and scared people make fast decisions." Anna clenched her jaw, her fingers tightening in her lap. She had seen desperation before. She had lived it. And Olivia was right. Sophia had the look of someone who knew she was dangling off a cliff's edge with no safety net. If she had any other way out, she would have taken it. They didn't have to wait long. Headlights cut through the darkness as a sleek silver sedan pulled into the lot, stopping a few yards away. The driver's side door opened, and Sophia stepped out, her movements rigid, her breath visible in the cold night air. She clutched her handbag tightly, her knuckles white. Anna, Olivia, and David got out of their car. They approached slowly, deliberately, keeping their distance. Sophia didn't look like someone ready to negotiate. She looked like someone on the verge of breaking. "I have the files," Sophia said, skipping the pleasantries. Her voice was strained, her posture tense. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick manila folder. "Everything Langley has been hiding. Every transaction, every payout, offshore accounts, even the names of cops and judges on Moreau's payroll." Anna's breath caught. This was it. The evidence Tate needed. Olivia took the folder, flipping through the pages quickly before nodding in approval. "Good," she said. "Then we're done here." But Sophia didn't move. Her lips parted, then pressed together, as if debating something, her shoulders hunched slightly, her eyes darting between them. She was hesitating. Anna noticed it first. "You're scared," Anna said quietly. "Not just of Langley, not just of Moreau." Sophia let out a shaky breath. "If you're going after Moreau, you don't understand what you're dealing with. You think he's just another crime boss, but he's bigger than that. He has people everywhere." She swallowed. "If you do this, he won't stop. He'll come for you. For me. For everyone connected to this." David let out a humorless chuckle. "Well, we're already on his hit list, so I guess that ship has sailed." Sophia shook her head. "You don't get it. Novak was just a warning. Moreau killed him publicly in front of his own people to make a statement. He's not just looking for a rat. He's making an example out of anyone who crosses him." A sick feeling coiled in Anna's stomach. Novak wasn't just an execution. He was a message. Sophia's voice lowered, urgent. "If you think giving this to the cops is going to be enough, you're wrong. Moreau won't let this go to trial. He'll burn everything before he lets this information see the light of day." Olivia's grip on the folder tightened. "Then we make sure he doesn't have time to cover his tracks." Sophia let out a hollow laugh. "You don't have time. Moreau already knows you're involved. I heard Langley on the phone earlier. He put a bounty on your heads." Anna's heart skipped a beat. David stiffened. "What?" Sophia nodded. $1 million for each of you, dead or alive. Every street gang, every hired gun in the city will be looking for you." She exhaled shakily. "You have hours, maybe less, before they come." Silence fell over them like a hammer. Anna's mind whirled. A bounty. Moreau had officially declared war. Olivia's face was unreadable, but her jaw clenched. "Then we need to end this tonight." David let out a low curse. "And how the hell do we do that?" Anna looked at Olivia. "We don't just expose Moreau. We burn his entire operation to the ground." A slow smirk curved Olivia's lips. "Now you're thinking like a winner." Sophia hesitated. "You need Langley. Moreau trusts him, but Langley only trusts money. If you take him out of the equation, Moreau will be exposed, vulnerable. That's your best shot." Anna met her gaze. "Where is he?" Sophia swallowed hard. "At his private estate. He's packing up, getting ready to flee before the cops start sniffing around. If you're going to make a move, it has to be now." Olivia turned to David and Anna. "We hit Langley's estate, take everything, and give it to Tate. Moreau won't have time to react." David exhaled sharply. "And if Moreau's people are already watching us?" Anna squared her shoulders. "Then we make sure they never see us coming." This was it. No more hiding. No more running. By the time the night was over, Moreau's empire would either crumble or they would. The night was suffocatingly still, the air thick with the weight of what was about to happen. Anna sat in the back seat of Olivia's car, her fingers gripping the cold leather as the city lights blurred past. They were heading straight for Langley's estate, the place that held the final piece of evidence that could take down Moreau's empire. The plan was clear. Get in, retrieve the files, and get out before Moreau's people realized what was happening. But Anna knew deep down that nothing ever went according to plan. Olivia drove with precision, cutting through the dark streets with a focus that made Anna uneasy. David sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, his foot tapping restlessly against the floorboard. "I still don't like this," he muttered, his voice low. "Langley is careful. If he gets even a whiff of something off, he'll make sure those files are gone before we even step inside." "We're not giving him the chance," Olivia replied. "He's distracted, trying to pack up and disappear before everything comes crashing down. We get in before he has time to cover his tracks." Anna inhaled deeply. "And if Moreau already suspects we're coming?" Olivia's lips curved into a small smirk. "Then we move faster than he does." The car pulled into an empty side street just a few blocks from Langley's estate, hidden from view by the tall hedges that lined the property. They stepped out, the cool night air pressing against Anna's skin as she looked toward the massive house in the distance. Langley's estate was as extravagant as expected. Tall iron gates, manicured gardens, and a driveway that stretched longer than any road Anna had ever lived on. The place screamed power and untouchability. But tonight, it was vulnerable. They approached the perimeter cautiously, using the blind spots Sophia had mapped out for them. A side entrance near the garden provided the easiest access, and as they slipped through, Anna felt her pulse quicken. Every nerve in her body was on edge. This was the final stretch. David reached the back entrance, pulling out a small set of tools. "Give me a minute." Olivia kept watch while Anna tried to steady her breathing. The estate was quiet. Too quiet. The lock clicked, and the door eased open. They stepped inside. The house smelled like money: polished wood, expensive cologne, fresh-cut flowers. Everything was perfectly placed, the kind of space where nothing was ever out of order. But tonight, they were here to change that. "The office is upstairs," Olivia whispered, moving quickly across the marble floor. Anna followed, every footstep feeling too loud, too risky. The grand staircase curved ahead of them, leading to the second floor where Langley kept his most sensitive records. David reached the landing first, nodding toward the large oak door at the end of the hallway. "That's it." Anna's stomach clenched. They were so close, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go very, very wrong. Anna took a slow breath, steadying herself as they moved toward Langley's office. Every second inside this house felt like walking a tightrope, one misstep away from disaster. The hallway stretched before them, quiet and dimly lit, the thick carpet absorbing their footsteps. Olivia reached the heavy oak door first, pressing her ear against it. She held up a hand, signaling them to stop. "There's movement inside," Olivia whispered, her voice barely audible. Anna's pulse quickened. Was Langley still here? They had assumed he would be downstairs, gathering his things, making calls to secure his escape. If he was in that room, everything just became more complicated. David frowned. "What do we do? Wait him out?" "No," Olivia said, reaching into her bag and pulling out a small, sleek laptop. "We don't have time. If he's in there, we use it to our advantage." Anna watched as Olivia quickly connected a small device to the control panel beside the door. The estate had a smart security system, but Olivia had prepared for that. With a few keystrokes, she shut off Langley's phone reception and triggered a low-level alarm in another part of the house. A few seconds later, Langley's voice carried through the door. "What the hell now?" The sound of a chair scraping against the floor, hurried footsteps, and then the door opened slightly. Langley stepped into the hallway, irritation written across his face as he adjusted the cuff of his expensive jacket. He muttered something about useless staff before striding away toward the source of the alarm. The moment he turned the corner, Olivia moved. She pushed the office door open, and they slipped inside. The room was exactly what they expected: sleek, modern, a controlled chaos of power. The walls were lined with dark wooden bookshelves, and the massive desk in the center was covered in neatly stacked files, a laptop, and a set of locked drawers. Anna didn't hesitate. She moved to the desk, flipping through the papers. Bank records, offshore accounts. Here's a list of shell companies. Olivia went straight for the locked drawers. The real stuff is in here," she murmured. She pulled out a thin tool from her pocket and worked on the lock. It clicked open within seconds. Inside, stacks of confidential documents were neatly filed away. Olivia grabbed them all. "This is it," she said. "This is what we need." David had already moved to Langley's laptop, plugging in a small USB drive. "Sophia said his digital files are just as important as the physical ones," he muttered. "Give me a minute." Anna's eyes darted toward the door. They didn't have a minute. Langley wouldn't be gone for long. "Hurry," she urged. The tension in the air thickened as David's progress bar crept forward on the screen. 90%. A noise outside. Footsteps. Anna's stomach twisted. "He's coming back." David's hands flew over the keyboard. "Almost done. 95%. The footsteps grew louder. 99%. A sharp beep signaled the transfer was complete. David yanked out the USB and shut the laptop, just as Olivia snapped the drawer closed. "Go," Olivia whispered. They moved swiftly, retracing their steps toward the staircase. But as they reached the landing, Langley reappeared, his face twisted in confusion as he noticed the office door slightly ajar. His eyes met Anna's. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, Langley's face contorted in realization. "What the—" Anna acted on instinct. "Run!" she shouted. They bolted down the stairs, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. Behind them, Langley's shouts echoed through the halls. Anna's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Just a few more steps. They reached the back door. Olivia threw it open, and they rushed outside into the cool night air. The car was parked just beyond the hedges. If they could just— A voice called out behind them. "Stop!" Anna didn't stop. None of them did. They sprinted toward the car, their breathing ragged. Olivia reached the driver's seat first, shoving the stolen files onto the dashboard. David and Anna threw themselves into the back seat, just as Olivia started the engine. Tires screeched against the pavement as they sped away, leaving the estate behind. Nobody spoke for the first few minutes. The only sound was the rapid thudding of Anna's heartbeat in her ears. She clutched the folder in her lap, staring at the evidence they had risked everything to retrieve. David let out a slow exhale. That was too close. Olivia's grip on the wheel was tight, her jaw clenched. Close doesn't matter. We have what we need. Anna took a deep breath, her mind racing. They had done it. Moreau's entire operation, his money laundering, his bribes, his hold over the city, was all in their hands. But it wasn't over yet. She grabbed her phone and dialed Tate. He answered on the first ring. "Tell me you have it." "We have it," Anna said, her voice steady. Silence. Then a relieved exhale. "Good. Bring it to me tonight." Anna glanced at Olivia, who nodded. "We're on our way." They drove in silence, each lost in their thoughts. One final step. If they got this to Tate, Moreau would be done. His empire would crumble. Anna's hands trembled slightly. Was it really over? 1 week later, the city felt different. The tension that had hung in the air for so long had lifted, replaced by a strange, uneasy calm. Jack Moreau was gone, arrested, his assets seized, his allies turning on him, scrambling to save themselves. Anna sat in a quiet diner, sipping her coffee as the news played on the small television above the counter. Breaking news. Businessman Jack Moreau has been formally charged with multiple counts of fraud, corruption, and conspiracy after a large-scale federal investigation exposed an intricate web of criminal activity. Authorities say the case is being called one of the most significant crime busts in the city's history. Anna let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It was real. Moreau was finally paying for everything he had done. The diner door creaked open behind her. A familiar presence slid into the seat across from her. Thomas Caldwell. He was dressed as sharply as ever, but there was something different in his posture. A sense of ease. He studied her for a moment, a small smile playing at his lips. "Not bad, Carter." Anna smirked, setting her coffee down. "Not bad yourself." Thomas leaned back, watching her carefully. "So what now?" Anna thought about it, about everything, about the chaos, the danger, the fight to survive. And for the first time in a long time, she had an answer. "Now," she said, a slow smile forming. "Now I start over.